Wholeness, welcome to Notes of Nara. Um, it's been a long day. It's just been a long day. Not a horrible day, you know. I'm breathing, car's running, work is okay, still balancing out. Oh, that. Oh. I'm sorry, I don't mean to yawn like that. Anywho, we're coming to the close of February. So I was wondering, like, what do I need to post tonight? What do I need? What should I upload? And I thought to myself, been thinking of my kids that I work with, and this is kind of what came to mind. So the inner child, I believe that it's really important that we continue to nurture the inner child with our children. This must stay intact, right? In my teaching experience, I will say this. In my teaching experience of all the dozens and dozens of children I've worked with thus far, not only in education but also in the medical field, when I worked in psych health, I witnessed some horrific things, like the worst that human beings can do to children. Things that you don't necessarily believe would be happening in your backyard, but they're happening right underneath not only your backyard but your nose. And today, a few moments ago, I was thinking to all the little kids throughout the day today, of all the children I've worked with in the medical field and in education. And not primarily in my own personal life, but just with children as an adult. And how they're forced, many of them, the kids that I've worked with anyway, were forced to face a lot of adult things, a lot of adult experiences that your frontal lobe isn't fully developed until almost the age of 30. So, children are exposed to a lot. And the children I worked with were exposed to things I can't really say on here, online. And it was working with them, teaching with them, or caring for them in the hospital, providing support, behavioral health. Very humbling and heartbreaking experience. And I've shared this before. I have my personal reservations of becoming a mother to a child. And I don't necessarily believe that is the way the way that motherhood is expressing itself in my life is through education. Is nurturing and guiding the minds of the youth. It is not, I just don't see myself, finding a partner, getting with a partner, getting pregnant and giving birth and raising a child. My own, right? It's very possessive. My kid, my child. It's very, very possessive. And rightfully so. I mean, you have the genetic, biological component of it all, but the amount, without getting into detail, this is, I guess, a reminder message, a reminder video. The amount of trauma that kids are exposed to, that I have seen. This is a reminder to all the adults out there. If 25% of your life, is made up of engagement with people younger, a couple of decades younger than yourself or a few decades younger than yourself, keep this in mind. Keep this in your heart. Remember to remind them of their inner child, their innocence, the peace, the joy that they bring into the world, the creativity, the imagination, the magic. Oftentimes, these are qualities and attributes that are raped, that are yanked, that are snatched out from their hands. I would say we, but I'm in adult form, right? But that's, I feel like, what's on my heart to share, and how important that is to remind children, even children who haven't been through traumatic events. You know, it doesn't take a lot to condition a young, beautiful child to snuff out their light. It doesn't take a lot, because they have no fortitude yet. Their foundation isn't very strong. It's not very established. They're new to everything. They're ignorant to many things. They're innocent to many things. Rightfully so. You have some old souls that incarnate and they bring in a certain amount of wisdom, but they are still very much a child. This is not a confession video. My heart aches for children that are forced to have to go through really horrible shit. And I work with the age group 13, 14-year-olds where they still have that innocence in them, like they really do. Even all the way up to high school, the innocence is just such a very pure type of energy. And unfortunately, there's some kids where that purity is snuffed out. And then as an adult that when they become an adult, they're going to have to fight like hell to polish, right? To polish themselves to be bright again. Because again, that light that I will say in this world, in this realm, that likes to eat that light, to steal that light, to yank it, to snatch it, to control it, to possess it. That is just the essence of not only spirit, but of the soul. And the soul is infinite and eternal, and that it cannot be harmed. It cannot die. It cannot be born. It just is. And children embody the essence of the soul. That's why people go after them. I'm going to say it right now. I'll say one thing. Human trafficking. It's real. It's popping. Even in the region where I live. My stint in the hospital when I worked in healthcare. You know how you get to know your local, like your city real well or your town real well? Work in a hospital. You then you have the opportunity to study the societal mayhem, the breakdown of ethics and moral, and how corporate kind of gets in there and they do their corporate corrupted shit, right? But it's a perfect way to study human nature. But you get an honest view of reality and the real that's surrounding you. The homeless, the addicts, the people who struggle with mental health, chronic illnesses, how insurance companies screw people over, how insurance companies save lives, medications, all like it was such a profound experience working in healthcare to be able to study and to know a place. So do I know the city that I live in the back of my hand? No. I moved to a new city. I don't know. It's in my home state. I don't know very well. However, I will say, because I have a certain way with human beings, I just do, and taking care of them, and the patients that I worked with in the hospital had they're in a very vulnerable spot. And did I get along with every single patient? No, but I clicked with most of them because I always sought to see the human, to recognize the human in them, to recognize their vulnerability, to recognize where their ego was, and to connect deeper on a deeper level with the time that I had with the patient. And you would be amazed that once you have that connection with the patient, they'll tell you stuff. Locals will tell you everything. I didn't even have to ask. They'll tell you the stuff that's kept on the DL. You know what I'm saying? They'll tell you the truth of what's really happening in the streets. Oh yeah. Big money comes in. I learned quite a bit about the city I live in right now, just by talking to people, real people living out in them streets, having real life experience. I remember one patient in particular, this patient brought up human trafficking, and she was like, this is a hub. This whole place is a hub. A hub meaning it's like a part of a network. Anyway, I say this, and I'm not a huge activist. I'm not. If I were to take part in going into the streets and doing something that profound to society, it would literally be to go against human trafficking for men and women and children. Because I've seen, oh God. Oh. I've seen things in life like like when you see something that's really like mind-blowing and heartbreaking and you can't unsee it, and it stays with you, and then it takes a while to process, which I've processed quite a bit of what I've seen in my life professionally, not personally, but professionally, working with children and teaching children. And boy, oh boy. And it's made me I'm not going to say it like I'm afraid to be a parent. It's just not my calling to do so. I'm all about, like, if the soil of the garden is toxic, why plant new seeds in hopes that the seeds will make the soil great again? I'm very fundamental when it comes to this type of thinking. You have to focus on the chemistry, the chemical makeup of the soil. It's the nitrogen, right? Because I farmed. I've done agriculture, worked on vegetable farms. It's the nutrients in the soil that will dictate usually how the crop will turn out. If you have bad soil, the seeds that you plant, you're not going to get the best out of that seed. So why plant more seeds? And that's kind of how I look at children. Why have more children when there's so many that need us, that need me? And I'm not trying to poo-poo the biblical religious duty of be fruitful and multiply. Do you? I'm not hating on parents, men and women, or parents who are pregnant right now and their baby's due in a few months, or they just found out that they're pregnant. Congratulations. For what I've seen, hardcore reality. It's not dreamy, it's not fanatical, real life, everyday people, and what the individual child, man and woman, go through. people need a lot of help. People need guidance. People need support. And I feel it's just in my heart to work with the youth because they're much younger. They're not as fixed. And yes, you can plant seeds in their mind. Right? So, again, it's I'm not bashing women who choose to have 20, 30 kids, okay? I know there's this woman called Ballerina Farm or something. She's got like 11. The Mormon community, they have many babies like that. And it used to be where, my grandmother, her grandparents, no, her mother, my great-grandmother was one of 11 children. And they were farmers. Okay? And you dig deep back enough, slaves, all right, and go further and further back. Obviously there's a whole complex history with that, but again, I want to be sure that I state very clearly, I'm not I'm pro-life for sure. However, I've made that personal choice to reserve myself in that way, because if you look around the type of hell that a lot of people are in that you don't see with the naked eye, you know what I'm saying? The internal wars that children have to face going home, or a man has to carry on his shoulders, or a woman has to carry on her heart. People go through a lot. And so I, as a fellow human being, or a being having a human experience, I can see that, I can feel that. I've experienced some of it. But this video is just a reminder to please remind the children that you interact with, whether it's your niece, your nephew, your son, your daughter, your great niece, great nephew, grandson, granddaughter, godson, goddaughter, cousin, second cousins, third cousins. Remind them to remember their light, remember their imagination and their magic. Because there's a lot of freaking demons out here that will try to snuff out their light. And they'll turn them and tarnish them into something else. I wish I could say more, but I'm so sorry. I feel like I've been yawning a lot more in most of my videos. Please pardon that. Oh God, halfway through the semester and I'm like, oh God, I'm tired, but I'll be okay. I'll be all right. But children, I've always said this, children are the light of God. And, whatever God is to you, whatever boo-boo. But put your own definition on it, okay? This is not, I'm not doing that. I also want to reiterate, this is not I believe in this, so you got to believe in it too. It's not my responsibility to project a truth that I believe in onto you. You have to discover your own truth. Do not treat my opinion as your truth. You need to do your own work, okay, when it comes to that. But to me, children carry so much light. Oh, I will share something positive and uplifting. So, like I mentioned before, I'm in grad school right now, and we have to do observations of different groups or different age groups. And I've worked with toddlers before. I nannied them. I helped raise my little brother, and you know what I'm saying? I helped raise my cousins, and I was the oldest of 5 at one point. So I have experience, changing diapers and stuff, but not in an educational sense. So I had an opportunity to observe a preschool group of preschoolers, and it was really neat. It was so... children are great. They're hard. They're challenging. You know what makes children challenging? This is what makes children, I think, raising children so challenging. at any age. And some adults are better at raising their kids at certain ages than other parents. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'll say this: the reason why raising children is so difficult is because they are literally projecting exactly what society and the human collective is feeding them. All of it. Not just their parents, not just their close family members or friends, their neighborhood, their schools, their political system, the economic system. And what I see in the classroom is they projectile vomit all of that bullshit, all of the crap, and also all of the beauty. They bring it all of that on their shoulders, because they don't have, at 13, 14, you're learning to self-regulate. You get better and better at it, okay? They still have tantrums. Teenagers still have tantrums. I've seen adults have tantrums, so, okay? But they're still learning to self-regulate, okay? But with the preschoolers, it was so adorable. Oh my God. These little bodies, okay? And in preschool, like, you're not even in kinder. You're not in kindergarten, okay? And I have early memories when I was in daycare / preschool. I really do. It was called Mother Goose Daycare, Mother Goose Preschool, something like that. But this old little white lady and her daughter, and this old little white lady had like white hair and short bob and like little glasses, and we go on like little trips everywhere. I remember that. Early 90s. But yeah, it was a Monday morning, and they came in and they just kind of waddled in, and at first I was helping them like open their breakfast and all their little things, and their preschool teacher that I was observing, she goes, "Oh, no, they got it. Let him, he can do it." And I was just like, "Oh, right," because naturally, as a nurturer, you just want to go in and help. Like, and people who are naturally of service, that servant archetype, right? That just pops through and you just go in and help. But they do this to observe their motor skills, their social skills. Preschool's very important, to have that exposure. That's how they build. That's how they learn about self-awareness and sharing. But man, watching them, their little itty bitty bodies, and there was one little one, he struggled to pick up his tray to throw it away. And it was like just a little milk carton and a biscuit and some fruit, and I think one of my favorite ages and with children is that age or literally around 2 to 3 years old, because it's that moment in life is so magical, because everything is pretty just brand spanking new, because they're able to walk, right? And they're learning how to go potty. Okay, some of them are struggling still, but like they're in the process of potty training. But yeah, that was just very fulfilling to watch that, to observe their, just everything, and their attention span is so fast. It was just really fascinating. I'm glad I'm attending those observations, but I mean, it's a requirement for my degree. But anyway, so yes, just remind any child that you have any connection with, just remind them of the magic and the light that they have. And also tell them to protect and guard it with all their might. I don't tell, you learn how to filter stuff so you don't scare kids, right? Even with 13, 14-year-olds, like I like to be transparent, but you don't tell them every single detail. I was not, my father did not spare me, okay, as a child. He just went all full throttle. Like, I was exposed to a lot, But it kept me straight, meaning like I made better decisions all the more for it. I think if my father hadn't exposed me to what he did, and it was more for educational purposes than, him making horrible decisions and I'm stuck in his crap. No, it wasn't like that. It was, when he made that decision to get his life together and then he showed me the reality, right? My father faced homelessness and addiction, and he had no shame. I mean, I'm not going to say he had no shame. He wanted me to see the real life, hardcore, what it looks like, starting from the ground, literally from the ground up. And he lived in a homeless shelter for a year, I think, or so. And, you know, um, he brought me to his NA meetings. So I'm like 10, 11 years old, listening to very adult things, which scared the shit out of me as a kid. I'm like, oh my God. Just like one decision can F up your whole life. Or a series of really bad decisions can really put you in a horrible spot. So, like, I saw shit, okay? And so, like, but I made for damn sure that my father instilled in me that I was responsible for every choice that I made, and that I was held accountable for that at a very young age. I didn't learn it at 13, 14. Hey, you need to be responsible. No. My dad started talking about death and the nature of dying and leaving this world when I was 3, 4 years old. Is that like an appropriate thing to bring up with a kid at that age? No. However, it served its purpose. Okay, I don't look at my dad funny because of that. I'm very honored that he did that. I'm grateful that he did that, because these kids, what they face now, so just remind them of their magic. Remind them of their purpose. That they need to shine and shine brightly. And that if anything, they need to learn how to. It is our duty. I'm very passionate about this. It's our duty to teach them how to guard that light. Not harbor it all for themselves and being selfish. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to guard, to discern what belongs and what does not. We are guides to children. Many parents are very, very possessive over their child, which I mentioned before in the video. Genetically, there's a genetic biological component to that. There's a spiritual component to that. You have to have that type of bond in order to keep that baby alive. The survival of that child depends on that type of connection. So, yes, it's very understanding why parents are very possessive. You're my son, you're my daughter. You're gonna listen to what I tell you to do. You came from me, right? We have all heard it. However, we must understand that if anything, we are guides for them. That is all. We don't own the children. You can never own anybody. Like in human trafficking, I can't understand how that's very dark, very demonic, very, very dark frequency, vibration, and mindset to be in, to sell children, to sell any human being, for money that you can't take with you. You can't take it to heaven. You certainly can't take it to hell. So, but people will spend their whole majority of their life chasing after this illusion, knowing that they cannot take this illusion with them. Everything that we have, physical, everything stays here. And it returns to the earth. It rots. It enters back into the cycle. Life, death, life cycle. So, I cannot and will not ever understand, overstand the reasoning. I can understand the illusion, but I can't, the choice to sell another for an exchange of power and control and manipulation. It's sick. It's a real sickness of the human collective. But anywho, this is getting too long. Remind the children of their light and the love that they carry within them. And it is our duty as adults to guide them, to teach them how to discern and how to guard, how to activate the gatekeeper of the soul. Because they truly don't know any better. Jeez. They truly don't know any better. But I will say this: do not insult the intelligence of children. No matter if they're 15 or 11 or 12, 5, it's all they hold some very beautiful messages, and they can shock you too. So that's all I got. I'm tired. I'm kind of worn out right now, but I'll be all right. I just wanted to throw that out there. Have a good night.